At 6 o'clock. This is our annual board reorganization meeting for the FNESU board. Since there are new members on this board, I thought we could start off with board member introductions. I believe all of the board members know all of the administrators in the room, but you might not necessarily know one another. So I wonder if, Erin, you want to start us off? Just say your name and which board you represent.
Sure. Erin Paquette, I'm on the NMB board.
Mary Niles, NMV.
Sarah Herdbees, the ER board.
More Greenwood, the ER board.
Okay, and we also have two board members who are unable to make it tonight. So Catherine Barnard from the NMV board and Shaylee Draper from the ER board. So,
Kat's about to jump on soon.
oh, she's coming on soon. Okay. All right. So I will start off by, I'll wait till Kat is connected. Audio. Kat, thank you for joining us. We just did board member introductions, since we have a new board member. Mort is joining the FNESU board. So we have Mort and Sarah from the ER board, and Shaylee Draper, who is not here but also from the ER board. And then you know your counterparts here. So I've just opened the meeting, and I'm going to open by taking nominations for the FNESU board chair. Are there any nominations?
I'll nominate Mary Niles.
I have one nomination for Mary Niles. Are there other nominations? Hearing none, we'll do this by roll. All in favor of Mary Niles for board chair. Kat?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Mort?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Congratulations, Mary.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Turn it over to you now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So that brings us to our vice chair position. And currently,
It was Polly.
It was Polly, that's right.
Oh,
Polly came
right.
off. Yeah.
oh, right.
But we're all looking
Okay.
around going, wait.
So, interest or nominations for vice chair? Might be nice for someone from Enosburg.
Sure.
Yep.
Right on the end of my name.
Would someone like to nominate?
I'll nominate Martin Greenwood.
Great. We'll do that by roll. Kat,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Mary is an aye. Great. Clerk, remind me who our clerk is. Erin, how do you feel about that?
Oh, maybe not on this board? Who's Sarah?
Erin.
Erin.
It was there.
Before we started.
Okay, so I'll nominate Erin Paquette. We'll do that by roll. Kat,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Erin, Mary's an aye. Finance, this is the motion to approve warrants electronically. That seems to be working well. Don't see any need to change that. We do need a motion for that.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Sarah. By roll, Kat,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye. This is SU voting delegate for statewide health insurance. I currently do that. I'm happy continuing in that role.
There a nomination.
Okay,
I nominate Mary Niles.
okay, thanks. Kat,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye. So the meeting schedule and location, how has this been working for everyone? This is an unusual, we were a week early for this April, but normally it would have been next week, so third Wednesday of each month at, here at 6. We had talked about potentially at some point transitioning over to the central office space when the conference room is ready, but that's not ready
It'll be
yet.
ready by the time you have your next SU meeting.
Which will be August, eh?
Yes. Right,
Okay.
Morgan?
Tip the office pool on when the room is gonna be ready.
It's like count the jelly beans in the jar kind of thing. So that's a potential, if we wanted to transition over to meeting in that space. There's plenty of room for, our regular group as well as a number of, guests and members of the public. So any discussion about changing the location? How do people feel about that?
I'm good with that.
That works?
Yeah.
Karen, you feel okay about that? Kat, do you feel all right about changing the location?
Yep, that's fine with me.
All right, so I'll make a motion to continue doing our meetings on the third Wednesday of each month at 6 o'clock. The new location will be at the central office conference space. By roll, Kat,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye. So the board retreat dates,
So we did not have dates to propose, and I guess we should have talked about this before we came into this, and the reorganization. I'm wondering if we want to pick a date sometime in July to have a board retreat. That would be a good time to maybe kick us off in our work for the year. Or it could be August.
I'm away a big chunk of July.
I think if you just give us the time period that you're okay with, we can do the doodle poll that we typically do.
Okay.
And it would be great if as many FNESU board members as possible could come so that we could continue our work around the board goals and the prioritization of what it is that we've been working on in FNESU.
So, yeah, why don't we send out a doodle poll, maybe, I mean, I know for me personally, early August works much better, but everyone has different summer plans, I'm sure.
I think August would be better for us, actually.
So maybe we'll aim for early, I mean, it gives us these two, the week of the 7th, to try for something in advance of the meeting on the 16th.
Sure. So we'll do, first 2 weeks, we'll do a poll.
Yeah, I won't be here that first week of August either.
Oh, okay. So the middle 2 weeks.
Yeah, but it really, if we wanted it to be in advance of our August 16th meeting, we would maybe kind of pick something either the
We'll
week of the
prioritize.
7th or these first 2 days prior to the meeting, the 14th, 15th.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Location of our posting of, for the meeting agendas, it seems to be working fine. Morgan or Courtney, do you all, someone want to remind us where those locations are currently for SU meetings?
SU is all 6 town clerks, the Enosburg Post Office, the Richford Post Office, the NMV schools, so Bakersfield School, Berkshire School, Montgomery School, Sheldon, our website, and then the Bakersfield Library.
It seems ample. Anyone feel as though we're missing any other spots for posting that would be helpful for the community? And obviously always on the website too, with the
Always on the
links for the virtual meeting and everything. Okay, great. No motion on that, eh? For J, do we need a motion on that?
You could, yeah.
And we're doing, this is about Robert's rules, which we follow the Robert's rules for small boards,
Yes.
right?
Which allows your your board chair to vote, and does not require a
A
second.
second, correct. Any discussion about the Roberts rules? So I'll make a motion to continue as we've been doing. Kat,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye. Official media for publishing meetings.
So we have not chosen an official publication before, so we put that on the agenda. It's something to talk about, whether or not you want to choose one. We've done it mostly electronically for our annual meetings. Morgan, can you remind me, for annual meetings, we've been posting to,
We have been physically posting in the normal locations, and then I believe we did both the Messenger and the Courier this year in terms of the newspaper.
I mean, I think for something like the annual meeting, that absolutely makes sense. I don't know that we need that for, I mean, is that what this
It's
is
quite costly.
specific to,
So
right?
we have not done it for our regular meetings because we were posting very broadly in
Yeah.
lots of locations and it's accessible online. But I think you made the decision at last year's meeting that we should be posting those annual meetings in the paper as well.
The annual meetings, I think we should. I don't think we need, I think we have pretty broad coverage for our regular monthly
Yeah.
meetings.
And the annual meetings we have to do by statutes.
Right,
I don't know that you need a motion for that.
okay. Next up is the board communication spokesperson, which I believe is me.
And
Lynn, am I correct that I'm currently the board communication
You are.
spokesperson? Do we need a motion, a nomination and motion on that?
But if you want to, I mean, I think the idea of just having this conversation so that people are clear that if you're contacted by the media about something, that we have one person that is a board spokesperson, so that you are not all making a comment on something, that it goes through the one board spokesperson, and all media requests generally come through me as well. That makes sense?
Yeah. Do we need a motion on that?
It wouldn't hurt to have a motion so that we know it's you.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Someone needs to nominate me.
I nominate Mary.
Thanks. Kat,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
and Mary's an aye. Lynn, did you want me to touch on these renewals of policy?
So I think you've all gone over this already in your local board reorganizations, so these policies are there for annual review for you so that you understand the rules around public comment and also the rules associated in policy about how you handle complaints, if complaints are brought to you as a board member. So I refer you back to both of those policies so that you understand what is established in policy there. It's just good to have that review annually.
Any discussion about those policies? All right. Next is our board development plan.
So I think that we probably should have connected it to your board retreat because that's part of what you'll be talking about
Okay.
there. And I think that the new board member orientation, really we could do a better job of getting information out about the VSBA.
Yeah,
New board member, looking at the toolkit and making sure that people understand. Because I think that there are sometimes misconceptions about what the role of a school board member is. And I think that it's very helpful, so we're gonna try to do a better job with that.
great, thanks, Lynn. And then this advocacy piece, Lynn.
So there are, I every month bring you information about legislative priorities that are being discussed in Montpelier in our legislature. And you as school board members receive regular updates from the Vermont School Boards Association related to those education-related public policies that are being discussed. So the idea is you have the ability to advocate if there's something that, you know, really you feel strongly about. This is just a reminder that unless you as a board discuss advocacy on behalf of the board, you must note that you're not speaking on behalf of the board, that you're speaking as a private citizen. So I encourage you to, you know, that's one of the beautiful parts of being a citizen and having the opportunity to speak directly with our legislators, is that I encourage you to advocate for things that are really important to you. And if there's something that you feel strongly as a board that you want advocacy around, you could come together, you could warn a special meeting and say, we want to make a statement, or we want to maybe go down and talk on behalf of something, but you have to do that together in a publicly warned meeting. So, just a reminder.
Great, thanks, Len. Okay, so moving on, that brings us to our consent agenda. We have our prior minutes from the March 1st meeting, a number of first read on policies, the flag policy, school volunteers and work study students, and public complaints about personnel and use of chain of command for those policies. Any discussion on the minutes or those policies? So if there's no discussion, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda by roll. Kat?
Aye.
Mort?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
And Mary is an aye. So, public comment. So we've got two visitors. Nice to see you both. Would you like to address the board?
Yes, please.
Great.
All set.
Yeah, please feel welcome.
Hi, Jared Valancourt from Berkshire. On January 19th, we received a letter from FNDSU summarizing their work on equity, justice, and inclusion. This was followed up with a letter that indicated student athletes would receive anti-racism instruction, as well as another reminder to the community on issues involving racism. The summary contained no reference to promoting colorblindness, but that is intentional, as colorblindness is not compatible with anti-racism. Nor is there any reference to Martin Luther King Jr., who is often credited with bringing this term to the forefront. King spoke of not judging others by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. King also warned, let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. Yet the ideology of anti-racism drinks directly from the cup of bitterness and hatred. For example, they reference studying Ibram Kendi. In his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, he writes, the language of colorblindness is a mask to hide racism. There is no such thing as a not racist idea, only racist and anti-racist ideas. Kendi also writes, the only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination. This is anti-racism in a nutshell. Likewise, they reference Paul Gorski. In training provided to Vermont educators, Gorski writes, we refuse to equivocate on racial justice. Educators who resist anti-racist measures should feel uneasy, isolated on the outskirts of their school's institutional cultures. I mean this literally. The educators least invested in racial equity should wonder whether they belong. Gorski also writes, any person who has grown up in the American public school system has been educated to hold racial prejudices. The American education system, with strong reinforcement from the media, has buried a nation of what I will call closet racist. This approach feeds the cup of bitterness and hatred, but will not help your efforts of teacher retention. An equity audit is being conducted by the Inside Education Group. This group said that colorblindness is an equity detour, and their co-founder wrote, examining whiteness must be an essential aspect of the work. I had never reflected on how my whiteness impacted my thinking and my inaction. And we've been raised in a society that was built on white supremacist beliefs. This ideology does not build unity. I've also informed you that some educators promote divisive material to students by providing links to websites when they communicate with them via email. I contacted an educator who sent some of these links to my child. I asked him to stop, and I shared some of the more egregious positions that were expressed on one of these websites, such as white people have used the gender binary, male and female, to force white-focused gender norms on people of color. It's one of the many ways that white people have controlled people of color. And only through dismantling white supremacy can we destroy systems like the gender binary. So I'm asking you again as a taxpayer and as a parent to look into and put a stop to this. Stop advocating for and allowing these ideologies in our schools. How does this rhetoric create the conditions that ensure all students feel safe, respected, and have a deep sense of belonging in order to thrive and succeed? Under the guise of equity, past divisions are exploited in order to advance the anti-racist ideology. A black professor from Columbia University called anti-racism a new religion. And Kennedy writes, the heartbeat of anti-racism is confession. But people who do not confess and question it face intimidation, bullying, public shame, and cancellation. For example, a former Vermont high school principal won a wrongful termination lawsuit after expressing an opinion. Any ideology where people are afraid to question it is a repressive ideology. Yet the name anti-racism is very enticing. After all, who doesn't want to be an anti-racist? But there is nothing more racist than targeting an entire ethnic group with a collective crime, regardless of the innocence or guilt of its individual members. In so doing, one form of racism is being exchanged for another. If you continue to look at, promote things through the lenses of identity, victimhood, and racism, don't be surprised if that's all you will see. Please do not teach this divisive ideology to students. If you would just go back to teaching personal accountability and the golden rule without manipulating it, much of what you are trying to accomplish would take care of itself. It really is that simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Okay, so next up, Vern, with our spotlight.
First, I'd like to say thank Courtney for helping me with this. I'm not very good at these things. So, anyways, just to give you a little highlight of what we've got going on this year for summer projects as well as future projects. A couple of the biggest things we're taking under our belt this year is a lighting grant. And there's a lighting grant that's been out there for a long time, and we haven't taken advantage of it. It's going away this year. So one of the major projects we're doing this summer is going through and relighting these schools with LED lighting, getting rid of all the ballasts, getting rid of all the tubes, and that's one of our major ones. So first one, Sheldon School. Now, I'm going to hit on all the NMV schools, and if you want me to go through, I can go through the other schools, but I don't know if you're interested in that. Sheldon School is getting a lot of work this year. One of them is the parking lot. We've started the ball rolling of relocating the Poor Farm Road coming out of the parking lot at the school. It's a huge safety issue with the cars coming out of Poor Farm. So we're working with Cross Consulting right now to kind of relocate the road. As you turn in, it's going to branch off to the left and bypass the entire parking lot to hopefully make it a safer situation. I did reach out to Pete Garslow today to see if he had any updates. He told me in 2 weeks they're doing a surveying of the land to move ahead forward, and they said soon after that he'd have a plan for us. So as soon as I have that, I will pass it along to you. We are working in conjunction with the town on this project, so so far everything's gone smoothly. So I'll give you updates. I was really hoping to have something to present to you a little bit tonight, but no such luck. As I said before, lighting. Now these are projected what we put on the list. After we get this ball rolling, Lynn would like me to go out a little farther, and I want to. I'd like to. When I started here, I said I was going to try to create a 5-year project program. Last year was putting out fires, and this year with the Sheldon project and all the other projects, they just haven't been time.
I just want to stop you for one
Yeah.
second so that people understand the reason he's talking so much about Sheldon is that the growth, the population growth in Sheldon has had a pretty steep trajectory. And since Sheldon came to us in 2019, in July 1, 2019, they've grown by more than 50 students. So that's pretty steep, and they have no space left. Their middle school's not adequately staffed, so you're hearing a lot about Sheldon because there's that, and we inherited a huge safety issue with the road going through essentially the parking lot of the school with really no barriers at all. So we're trying to address some big things.
The other large portion of what we're doing there this year is, I'm sure you guys have heard about the modular classroom that we're going after. This is going to be 48 by 60 feet. It's going to have 4 classrooms. Morgan and I released the site plan today to try to get this project rolling, to make sure that we're going to be ready for the opening of school, and I promised Linda we would be. So she'll run me out of Dodge if I don't have it done, so we're working pretty hard. We do have a small layout. This is the floor plan. It's not great, but basically this thing comes pretty well all packaged. The heating system, the air conditioning system is all one. We've got to get power out there and data and fire. These things come with a bunch of conduit that we can run everything under the sun. So I'm trying to get everything lined up. Morgan and I did the interior design for colors, so if anybody has any complaints, put it on Morgan. So we called those in today to keep the ball rolling. And I spoke to Jennifer Courier, who's the wife of the gentleman that we're doing business with, Shivali. She is actually going to, I think she said Tennessee next week to to go to this factory and get a timeline on what we're looking at. I've put in the permits for the town, and I can't put the permits in for the state until I get the load bearings for the structure. So as soon as I get those, I'll get those in to keep this ball rolling, and hopefully the state will get them back to us quickly. And I said the other thing is lighting in this school. Bakersfield, not a huge bunch of projects up there this year. We're doing the lighting. What we're trying to do is concentrate on, not that I feel that you can step away from any school for a year. You should do a little something in there. So the lighting is what we're doing. We're going to try to get the ball fields up there. The structure up there was vandalized, so we're working with Rhoda right now to see about getting some of that cleaned up. We put a lot up there last year, and I think we can maybe take a little bit of a breather at that school this year, and just basically do a paint and just a daily housekeeping.
Vern, I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yes.
was there not a boiler situation at Bakersfield, or wrong?
Nope.
No.
Wrong. We had 2 new ones. We had another new one put there last year. The heating system up there is fantastic.
Oh, we did that
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
season,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep. Montgomery School, we've got a situation there with some erosion that we're trying to attack. We're looking at putting a fence up there. It's a pretty big safety issue. There's a really big drop off there that we want to take note of. And so I had a fencing company up there yesterday to give me an idea of what I'm looking at. That's going to be a big one. Line striping, parking lot, no biggie. Lighting, again, we just got all the quotes back from all the lighting contractors, and I forward all that to Efficiency Vermont, and we're going to look what we got for grant money coming back. We got a grant for the library air conditioning, which would be kind of nice during the summer if we're going to host meetings there. We got that through, like I said, a grant, and we also were able to get the principal's office and the main office air conditioned. And another thing that I'm sorry I didn't put in here, we got a grant for also putting VFD pumps in the boiler room, which basically our ramp up system, there's a huge savings in that. So everything we're looking at right now this year is looking at efficiency and maybe saving some money. And this lighting program has got a 3 to 4 year payback, so it's a no-brainer. We should have done it a while ago, and I want to continue down this path. Berkshire. So boilers, that's the last school that we have that's on oil. They have served their life there. We've been very fortunate there. So we're in the middle of getting some quotes back for boiler replacement. One of the things that Morgan and I and Lynn talked about was looking at maybe some other alternatives for fuel, and that place, that location up there, I think screams for some kind of either a pellet or a wood pellet boiler. So when I have these boilers put in, I'm gonna leave off 2 future Ts that down the road, if we can put another fuel system in there, that it'll be an easy transition. You know, a couple of Ts and a couple of valves are pretty cheap to set ourselves up for the next phase. Lighting there. Also, underground tanks. I've talked to Fred's, who does all the underground work. They're gonna pull the oil tank out and set the propane tanks for us there.
Vern, I just had a question on
Yes.
the boilers, and talking about wood. I just got some mail from Efficiency Vermont, and I don't know if it was specific to just residential, but it was talking about, you know, like incentive programs up to like $14,000 if you switch to wood or pellets.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if that was only residential, so I just didn't know if any of the boilers for schools would have any, you know, those opportunities.
There's a, Kat, we had, we're talking about NMB schools, but Richford High School qualified for a grant to replace that boiler, and that one was a $250,000. So commercial is quite a bit more. $14,000 isn't really gonna be much of a drop for a school for boilers, but yes, there's a lot of, and the state is really kind of pursuing these schools to do this with a wood. So I think we probably would stand a pretty good chance if we did decide to do something up there. But the only problem we'd have up there is the footprint, whether we can add anything more up at Berkshire. We'd have to look into that. Enosburg.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Enosburg, we haven't really done a ton there, and this year, lighting, we're doing a parking lot, and this parking lot is very, very badly needed. This is where they drop the kids off every day, and the parking lot, the ice out there is incredible in the winter. It's a huge safety issue. We wanted to do this last year. The state had some program money that we thought we would get. So Morgan and I chose to hold off, and lo and behold, we kind of got the carpet pulled out from underneath us about 3 months ago. So we had to go ahead and power through for this parking lot. We need to get this done. Those RFPs are going to be going out. No, those RFPs are already out. I should have bids for those by the 17th. We have 2 boilers in there that are about 15 years old, and they both leaked. We had a leaking section in one and another leak that we tore apart the other day. So we've got one boiler done. It cost us basically $8,000 to regasket it and get another at least 15 years out of. And it's going to cost about another 8 to do the other one. But $16,000 versus $90,000, I thought it was a pretty good trade-off. So we can definitely get more life out of those 2 boilers. So like I said, one is done, and one will be done in another 2 weeks. So, and then of course lighting. And one thing I wanted to share with you guys is we're taking some of the projects under our belt, because getting labor, getting people to bid work has become a challenge, and with the schools, the summer programs running, I'm going ahead and doing projects on vacation as well. Like this April break, we have a huge epoxy floor project going in at Richford High School, and we're actually taking this gym floor down to nothing and redoing this as needed. And the principals have been super flexible and helpful with letting us do that. And I think down the road we're going to have to continue going down that path, because we're just not able to get as much done as we want in the summer. So that's kind of the avenue we're going down with that. Okay, Richford. So again, epoxy basement floors, bathrooms. We're going to wrap this project into the bathrooms down in the down into the basement floor as well. They want to do 2 classrooms and also the foyer. And the foyer is actually going to be for nothing. They did that about, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 years ago, and it failed. So I thought it was pretty stand up with the guy when he saw it, that he said, we'll take care of it. So we decided to move forward with that as well. And then, of course, the lighting. These lighting projects are really a lot of money, but we're going to weigh what we get for grant money from Efficiency Vermont and the state, and we're going to. Well, I mean, we'd be not crazy not to proceed with this program. Richford Elementary. Where do we begin? Lighting there, bathroom remodels. I don't know if any of you guys have been in that school, but the bathrooms came over on the Mayflower. These things are amazing. We've got to do something to get these things up to where they need to be. We're actually going to try to add an ADA bathroom on the original end of the school, and I think we can get that done. And then, again, they'd like to add a classroom there. So I had a meeting with Kelly the other day, and we're going to move forward. I've got to get some bids on that. But really, that school last year, we put a lot of effort in, and it really turned around. So we've got some other stuff. We're changing some casings around the heat and stuff, and getting that dressed up a little bit. So that school's coming along nicely. Enosburg High, gym floor is the big one that we, again, like I said, we'll be doing next week on vacation. We've got some refrigeration that's aging, but it's holding on. But I wanted to get it on the list to keep an eye on, and then lighting here as well. Cold Hollow Career Center. The Sugar House is the big project there for the summer. We got our bids in, and we're moving forward with that.
Can I just add a piece
Yeah, go
there?
ahead.
There's some history there. Cold Hollow has been leasing a sugar house for as many years as I don't even know, a lot of years. And so their lease is expiring, and so that ER board approved the build of a sugar house on site where they previously had kind of a dilapidated barn.
Yeah.
So Vern has inherited this project midstream here.
So I'm working with Seth and Nate to get a game plan together to move forward with this project and make sure by next year that these guys have got a place to make syrup. And then lighting in that school as well. We felt that the lighting we should do, down the road, if we ever do a remodel, the lighting's not going to change there. We may change the location of it, but the lighting will be still there. So, and so if we do decide to move forward with a larger renovation there, we felt that the lighting would be great to get done now. Now, whether or not we can get every school relit this summer, I'm not going to make any guarantees. We do have some bids, but they're far and few between because, like everything else, these guys are going to be running hard this summer. So I do have something lined up. If we get a school that we can't, I can store the lights. I want to buy the equipment now while the rebate money is there. So I've looked into storing if we have to. That's basically it. I did show Court the spreadsheet with the asterisk, but I can tell you that basically what I told you that I'm going to do is in the wheelhouse, but there's a lot of stuff that we probably aren't going to be able to get done this year. And hopefully before, I'm not going to say the next meeting, but I will have a more in-depth 3 to 4 year plan.
Can I just add a couple things to this? So, when Vern started this, he talked about the lighting project and said, this has been around a long time and we hadn't taken advantage of it. And then he also said later on that the principals have been very accommodating. And I want to say something about that because I was a principal. And all of these projects that you're talking about were projects that the principals had to lead. And they had no background knowledge. I have, dealt with failed water systems and things like that as a principal and had to rely on, I guess intuition and the help of others because you just don't have the skills. So we are so thankful that Vern is here to do this. Like the amount of work that's going to happen within FNESU, the amount that has already happened and the amount that is planned is something we never would have had the capacity to do. Even if we had the financial resources, we would not have had the expertise of someone like Vern to really take charge of that and get those things done. And when you walk into our schools, you're seeing the things that he's talking to us about. You're starting to see a real difference in our schools. So Vern, I just want to say, as much as I, bust your chops sometimes, I really, really appreciate that you're here and the work is incredible. And we'll work on that multi-year plan.
Yep.
But what's happening now is super important. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Vern. We appreciate you.
Yeah, you better show up tomorrow.
I know, right?
Okay. This isn't a day off.
All right, Morgan, you're up with the financial report.
So I will be relatively quick. The FY23 update is informational for you. For the alternative program lease RFP, you'll probably recall that we put up this same RFP a few months ago. We had 3 spaces express some level of interest. None of them were really a good fit. And so we put the project out again for an RFP. We had heard from 3 other people that they now might have some space that was would have been of interest to us. We submitted again. I would say we got 1.5 bids this time, but one of them was responsive enough that we feel confident that we can move forward with it. So that is in the block across the street, sort of between the Chinese restaurant and the drugstore. There's some empty storefronts there.
Okay.
It's a total of about 3,000 square feet.
Separate, not joined spaces.
They're contiguous.
Oh, they are contiguous.
So it's
Okay.
2 separate
Right.
spaces, but they're
A wall.
able to be interconnected.
Ah, okay.
And so the idea would be that we could have a K through 5 on one side and then 6 through 12 on the other side, and keep those 2 age groups separately, but allow for some collaboration there.
Nice.
And the rental price is reasonable. We will be responsible for figuring out the build out. The owner might do it for us, but we're gonna need to sit down and start sketching out walls and things like that.
Okay.
Because we
Is
did
this-
not, go ahead, Kat.
Sorry, is this, and so like if you move forward with that space, like is this gonna be ready for this coming school year?
That's the hope.
Michelle would like it ready for May. But I think we can aim for the next school year.
So because we only received 2 bids, we would need to get a waiver from the AOE to move forward. But if the board is still supportive, I think we should have a motion directing Michelle and I to move forward with that. Those waivers have been fairly easy to get if we can make the case. And I think in this case, since we went out twice to bid, we can make the case that we've really done our due diligence.
And the build out, and do you have costs yet as far as the
No,
budgeting
we
for
don't.
that?
We, as I had put in your report, we're expecting to come in well under budget this year for special ed, so I'm hoping that we can get in and start doing some of that work under
Right.
this year's budget.
Nice.
I'm not sure that that's feasible or not, just because of how difficult it is to find contractors. But unlike the local budgets where that money reverts to the voters each year on June 30th, this SU budget reverts to this board on June 30th, and we can decide as a board whether to continue to spend that money or put it down to.
So we could
Hang on,
carry, we
tax.
could potentially, if
Carry it
everyone
forward.
was in favor, carry it forward
Exactly.
to support this project.
Exactly.
And at least then offset, I mean, it might not cover all of it, but it would offset a chunk. Okay.
Yep.
And so, and we have a meeting in May, and are we having a meeting in June?
We do not have a meeting scheduled again until August. So I was just making a note in what will be my
Right.
designee. We may need to schedule a special meeting
Yeah.
once you get some costs associated with the build out so
Yeah.
that the board can vote to approve.
I think if you guys are approving it conceptually tonight, we're kind of committed to the build-out. And, much of what has been done at the current space has been done by Vern and others. So we're not going to be putting a lot of money into Gilt and Flash in this.
Do you have a
building.
rough, I mean, it's just a little hard to say 100% go for it with no actual firm numbers as to
Mhm.
costs.
Did they give you cost per square foot?
Just for the rental.
Just for the rental?
So what if you did a do not exceed if you had to exceed a certain thing for the build out that we would need to come back? Is that reasonable?
You could do that, or if you didn't want to have a meeting, if somebody had authority from the board away from the table to sort of check our math as we move along in this.
Was this not already approved in the budget? I thought it was.
We have money in next year's budget for it. We just don't yet know what the build-out costs are gonna be.
Okay.
And what's the, and you don't yet know what the surplus from this year's,
No, we won't know
It's gonna
for
be-
a couple more months, but I think it's gonna be significant. And we have been using that to build up our operating
Yeah.
reserves. A couple months of payroll in the bank should we need it. So I think we are sort of getting close to the point where we're gonna say we have enough cushion here and
yeah,
that,
okay.
balance at the end of the year, we're
I
gonna
mean-
start using to buy down the budget.
And we have kind of all the way along as a board been saying, let's move forward with this. I mean, in some sense, the costs are what the costs are. And if we can be mindful of trying to kind of mitigate extravagance, which I know we're not known for great extravagance and being pretty frugal, I trust that between the surplus and what we will have in the upcoming budget cycle that, and we have, it's a need, not, it's so needful, this space and these programs. So I would say that maybe what we could just do is leave it as kind of circling back with, I mean, if the board feels comfortable, circle back maybe with me as we get closer to that June 30th, and we'll just make sure there's no giant red flags from a budget perspective.
I think the other thing to just remember about budget as well is if we were sending all of these students out of district,
Totally.
you wouldn't be weighing in on it, we would just be paying the bills. And I think that when we did the January or February, did you do a spotlight on this, I feel like, Michelle, or
I think
it was in the
we
board
talked
report?
about it, the calculation, the difference.
The difference between what we would be spending out of district versus how we're able to spend it within. So I think that you're gonna
Yeah.
spend that money one way or another.
Totally. I mean, and
Yes.
ultimately for the long-term health of, the community, this alternative program space is gonna be incredibly vital.
The good news
So-
is the expensive things like bathrooms are already there on both spaces.
Nice.
So it's like that's
Yeah, I
and
think
just need some walls.
I think it's gonna be the cost, less than the cost of sending 2 kids out of district
Yeah.
for a year.
Yes, I've seen those warrants.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. So all that, oh, go ahead, Kat.
Sorry, I just have one more question with regards to the space itself, and I don't want this to sound negative at all because it's awesome to find a space, but are there any requirements you know, like being kind of in a shopping plaza with traffic and then like access to outdoor space? Like, are there any concerns, I guess, with the building itself?
So I think we would prefer that there was a more outdoor space, but we have explored all of the other available buildings or people that have come forward with spaces. So I think that we're making the trail house work currently in the space next to Cold Hollow without an outside space, but what they're doing is they're walking those kids to the elementary school to use that outside space for them when they need breaks. So I think that Michelle and I have had this specific conversation that would be the strategy as well, is that we would, because we're in such close proximity to these two schools, still think about this property and these, you know, amenities, if you will, as available to those students as well. You want to add to that, Michelle?
No, I was gonna say the same thing, like, they're currently accessing the park and, Enosburg Elementary, so we're gonna continue to do that, and the older kids use the basketball, like the cement outside and basketball stuff, so we will still have that same opportunity, be a little
Okay.
further
Awesome.
walk.
Great. So, if there are no other questions, then I'll make a motion. I mean, it seems kind of like a two-part motion. One, to move forward with the waiver for with the AOE because of, related to the RFP process, and two, to move forward with the rental and build-out of the alternative program space. We'll do that by roll. Kat?
Aye.
Mort?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
And Mary is an aye.
And that's all I have.
Great, thanks Morgan. This is good news. It's really great. Yeah.
Very good news.
Okay. Okay, Lynn, that brings us to you.
Okay. So I think, Courtney, are you gonna share a slideshow?
Yep.
Thank you. So we're deep in the midst of hiring season, and our directors that have direct reports are busy hiring, as well as our principals. So the report that you're seeing here is related to all SU positions. So for hiring, we have several positions. Some of them should be bold and they're not, so let me just see the one. So Bridget Adams, special educator for the alternative program, that's a professional position, so she's the only one, right? Right. So she's already employed as a family engagement specialist, but she's being reassigned to be a special educator, not with her permission. I didn't want you to think that we do that around here. But so I would ask the board for approval for hiring Bridget Adams. The other positions are informational.
I'll make that motion to hire Bridget Adams. By roll, Kat,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye.
Okay, so you have some resignations. You have one, the first one, Alessandra LaRusso, that is not going to ask you to take action on that one because that was a break in contract. The others are resignations effective at the end of the school year. So Tina Russett, special educator, Richford High School; Cody Gaudette, special educator at Sheldon; Colleen Ferris, special educator at Sheldon; Emily Grims, part-time SLP; and Bridget Adams is resigning from her family engagement coordinator position. So I'll ask the board to move on those.
I'll make that motion. Do you want me to name the names?
No, I don't think you need to. Courtney can.
Okay, so it's everyone there except for LaRusso.
Yes.
By roll, Kat,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye.
So I typically resist reading open positions. I think that this is a doable list to read. So I am going to for the SU positions because maybe people watch our recordings and they'll hear something and want to come work for us. So we are looking for special educators, intensive needs special educator, board certified behavior analysts, speech and language pathologists. We have 3 openings for SLPs, middle school reading specialist, literacy interventionist, math interventionists, occupational therapy assistant, or an occupational therapy assistant, therapeutic social worker, a school psychologist, social emotional learning coordinator, half-time a family engagement coordinator, a virtual elementary classroom teacher. We have kitchen assistant positions open, behavior technician for the alternative programs. We have positions open there, and substitute teachers, specifically teacher, nurse, paraeducator, custodian, and food service. So I would encourage people interested in applying in Franklin Northeast to give us a call, and or find us on School Spring.
We
And
actually just boosted the family engagement to a full-time.
okay, fantastic. So
Today.
full-time family engagement, great. And also we have some increases happening for support staff salaries. We'll talk about that a little later. So the starting pay is going up to $17.25 starting on July 1st. And if you're interested in working in the alternative programs, there is a equivalent of a $3 and a $2 wage differential for working in those programs. So, yeah. Next up, I just want to give you an update on the early signing bonus. I know that I apologize, Sarah and Mort, you already heard this last night. I didn't have all of the details for the NMV board who met last week, so I'm really excited to share this information with you. So when we negotiated with teachers last year, we began with, we were not able to hand out contracts previously until April 15th. They were due back at the end of April, April 30th, and anyone could ask for a 2-week extension. So that would bring us to around the middle of May, May 15th. So at the end of last year, we still, into the middle of May last year, we still didn't know about many of our positions. So we negotiated an earlier release of contracts when we negotiated with teachers. So we were able to send out our contracts to teachers on April 3rd. And thanks to this board and the 2 district boards, we were able to implement a teacher retention strategy. So we offered an early signing bonus for teachers if they returned their contracts by Friday, the 7th at 4:30. So we sent out 215 teacher contracts on the 3rd. Of those 215, 193 contracts were returned by 4:30 on Friday. That was 90%. We were very happy with that retention strategy. We received, of those 215, we received 3 letters of resignation and 2 contract extension requests by Friday. So teachers now have until April 18th to return their contracts. Since that time, I've received 1 additional contract extension request. And when they ask for that, it's a 14-day extension, they have to have it back by May 3rd. So they make their decision. So we're way ahead of where we typically are in our hiring process, and we were able to, on Friday, April 7th, let multiple principals know you're fully staffed. Like, you don't have, unless you already know you're hiring for someone, there are no surprises. All your people are coming back, which was really fantastic. We had some very excited principals, so we're feeling like that was an effective strategy, and it puts us way ahead of the game. So last year, just as a point of reference, there were 37 teachers who requested extensions. So we had 37 positions that we didn't know about until the middle of May. So I think I'm fumbling a little, Jamie, with the numbers, but the worst case scenario, if all of the people who didn't sign, who asked for extensions, if all of them choose not to return, we would be in the low 40s in terms of the new teachers. Do you have that number off the top of your head?
I don't, but I received 2 other contracts between yesterday and today.
Fantastic. So it would be in the low 40s range, would be about what we would be hiring for professional staff. And I believe it was 67 last year that we hired.
I put that in my notes. 60. 63.
63. So much better. And we already have a couple back and spoke to a principal today that knows at least a couple more that are going to sign. So thank you for your support of that retention strategy. I have one leave of absence request under personnel, and that is Bridget Adams. We're talking about Bridget a lot tonight. Bridget is expecting her second child, and she's new to us, so she has not had the opportunity to accumulate enough leave to get her through. So she's making the request. She'll need to go out on leave effective May 22nd, on or around. You know how babies work. So I would ask the board to approve Bridget's leave.
And this is an unpaid leave of absence.
Well, she has some time still available to her, and she doesn't qualify for FMLA because she hasn't
Yeah.
been with us long enough.
Yeah.
So FMLA is what would protect your position.
Right.
So we are going to, I put out a request to see if there are people that would be willing to donate days to Bridget to get her through, but we're asking for the board to approve the leave
Yeah.
just because she doesn't
Of course.
qualify yet for FMLA.
Yeah, of course. I'll make that motion for her leave of absence. By roll, Kat,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
and Mary's an aye.
Thank you. In your board packet, you have school calendar, the school calendar draft for 2023-24. Both boards, the NMV and the ER board, have already approved these calendars, so I'm bringing this for formal approval to you tonight. So just for those folks watching and for you administrators who have not been here for these talks, the calendars are substantially the same as they were in the previous year. We have 3 early release days. We've shifted those early release days from Fridays until Tuesdays, so that will be the same, those 3 half days for teacher professional learning. And as you know from our local district conversations, we are really missing the opportunity that we had pre-COVID to bring our teachers in for embedded professional learning. We don't have the substitute pool to be able to do that, so we are finding that there's not enough time to help support our teachers with the professional learning needs and to provide them with adequate time to do their professional learning community team meetings, their EST planning meetings, and things like that, because we just simply cannot find substitute coverage for that. So new in this year's calendar is an early release every Tuesday. So students would be dismissed 1 hour early on Tuesdays. Those students who need to would go to the LEAPS program. We would start that early. Our support staff would be supporting those additional students in the LEAPS program for that additional hour. And families could choose to either send their children home on the bus or come and pick up their children at the regular time. So any questions on the proposed 23-24 school calendar?
No, need a motion.
Yes, please.
Sorry, I have a question. I'm just confused, and I wasn't at the NMV meeting. Are we doing trimesters again or quarterly? And sorry if you already said it.
So there are 2 calendars linked in there. We're doing both, Kat. So no change from this year. So the NMV schools and Enosburg Elementary and Richford Elementary will continue to do trimesters. The Richford Junior Senior High School and Enosburg Middle High School will do semesters or marking periods.
Okay. And then this is just random feedback I had from a teacher, and I don't know if it's addressed on here, but when we had conferences like in the fall and it was before the end of the first trimester, they had concerns that it was more difficult, like to kind of, like they hadn't done their assessments yet or whatever, so I'm just kind of passing that information along.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on the calendar? So if there's no further discussion, I'll make the motion to accept the calendar for the 23-24 year. Do you need just we're accepting both, eh? one for
Yes.
Okay. By roll, Kat,
I,
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
and Mary's an aye.
So now I would like to talk about this year's school calendar. So we had 4 snow days this year. And if you remember, in late fall, I discovered that I had made an error in the 22-23 calendar because I had us returning to school on Monday, January 2nd. And January 2nd was supposed to be New Year's Day observed for year-round employees. So I missed that, so we did not have school on that day. So we have 5 days to make up at the end of the year. We have 176 student days in FNESU. By statute, we're required to have 175 student days. So I'm asking the board to waive the 176th student day so that our students will be able to get out of school on Tuesday, June 20th. And we'll turn that one student day into a professional learning day for teachers, so they'll still work their full 186 days. Does that make sense? Any questions?
And you don't need a waiver from the state?
No, because we still meet the 175 day
Gotcha,
minimum.
okay. I'll make that motion, by roll, Kat,
I,
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Erin,
Aye.
and Mary's an aye.
I do just want to point out, and I don't think I put it in the note, that Bakersfield Elementary does have one additional day because we had to close that school in the fall. We had 43% of our students out and several staff members because they had a widespread, actually it was multiple illnesses, it was not just COVID. So we just want to put that on your radar. Those students will be going until June 21st, unfortunately. Okay. The legislative update, I went pretty in depth in NMV and ER, so I don't feel the need to add anything here. Morgan, is there anything that from your vantage point that we haven't covered that we should?
Note Senate Ed is taking testimony this week on 483, which is the bill around tuition to independent schools. So they are heard testimony today, and they are hearing testimony tomorrow and Friday.
Okay. And I did send out, related to legislation, but last year's legislation, I tipped both boards that the legislature is considering a pause on the PCB testing. They have not passed anything yet. We found out recently that they're now moving forward with 2 of our schools. So Richford Elementary School was tested back in early September, and we never received results from Richford Elementary School. We knew that Berkshire Elementary School, not Berkshire, yes, Berkshire.
Yes, Berkshire.
Berkshire Elementary School was another school that was scheduled for testing, and Sheldon Elementary is as well. So the testing is happening in both Berkshire and Richford next week.
Monday, Tuesday, and then Sheldon will be inventory tomorrow, they're starting at 1 o'clock.
Okay. So we thought maybe there was gonna be a pause, there may still be a pause, but it looks like we just got moved into the queue. And so here we go. We'll see how that turns out.
Is there a turnaround time on,
No,
I mean, what's it?
we don't know. That's all I have, Mary.
Great, thank you so much, Cynthia. So we'll move on to our central office updates. Dominic, anything you'd like to highlight from your board report?
Just a couple of quick things. One, we did have interviews last week for the NMB technology integrationist position, and chose a candidate. I don't know if they've actually signed, if that's official yet, but
Yes.
Okay.
So you can say it.
Sweet.
Okay, so we're offering it to Robert Hickey, who currently works in Sheldon. So we're gonna have another position to fill over there now,
But probably not what he's currently titled there. We're gonna change that up a little.
yeah, change our strategy a little bit there. with some of the things that this new position will be able to do in conjunction with that position. And we've also started the process of looking for a new company to work with for our websites. We want to overhaul all of our websites, and we're hoping to get one system that we can use, hopefully for all of our schools too, so that we can have the kind of a similar look and feel to all of them, rather than every school kind of doing their own thing. We're at the stage where we've kind of cast a wide net, and just we've got about 10 vendors we're currently looking at and getting pricing from, and seeing which ones look like they might be a decent fit and are at least somewhat affordable. You rule out the ones that are over $50,000 kind of a thing. And then once we get that narrowed down a little bit, then we'll pull together a group to see some presentations from the vendors and choose which one we think will be the best fit.
Thank you for your work on that, Dominic.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Jody?
So I don't have a highlight, but I do have a quick addition, which is just informational. And there are a few other people in the room that can chime in on this one with me. I had told you last fall that the Agency of Education had put out bids for our summative assessments. We used to do a summative assessment called SBAC. You're probably familiar with that term. And they have a new vendor. That testing window opened today. And our testing in this SU started today. And there's good news and bad news. So it didn't go particularly smoothly everywhere. That's the bad news. But the good news is that people were patient, it seems like. Mary, our assessment coordinator, was able to, with Dominic and teachers, tech people at schools, to figure out some of the kind of tips and tricks that make it go more smoothly, and so they have shared that information out with everybody, so that people who are getting ready to do that testing, that system is called Cognia, people who are getting ready to do that Cognia system will kind of have been forewarned about some of the things that they can do that are really helpful to make it go more smoothly. And also there was a memo put out by the acting Secretary of Education, the Deputy Secretary today, which I thought was a great memo, my opinion. Taking some responsibility and acknowledging some of the challenges that have been out there, and also extending the testing window for a couple weeks. That will be really helpful, I think, for everybody. So I don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that conversation, but I'm guessing it's going to be picked up by the media, and you're probably going to be seeing stories about it, and just wanted you to have a heads up that it was a rough go today.
I'm going to add a couple pieces.
Okay, great.
I think you knew I would. So just to bring you up to date on Secretary French as well, so his last day in the position was Sunday. So the Deputy Secretary, Heather Boucher, is now the interim Secretary of Education. So she has inherited this. The rollout of the Cognia testing has been fraught with challenges from the start. As Jody said, it was we didn't learn about this until fall, which felt late, and then there were delays in bringing the training to we had trained the trainer models, and there were many delays there. There were many delays getting materials for trainers and clear expectations around accommodations and just several things related to the test administration. So we anticipated that this was not probably going to be a very smooth start because there were just a lot of unanswered questions. And I know that we have certainly raised, another piece that we have struggled with is people at the agency supporting the testing. There has been significant turnover, so it's been, we start and then someone new gets put into the role and then there's a pause and they're caught up to speed. So it's understandable why there have been delays, but it has caused immense stress for our staff members, and today I'm sure it wasn't fun for our students who were trying hard to get on, and a few kids in their class were on, but they were not on, and I think they worked through and were very patient and resilient, and I appreciate you saying that, Jody. I do think that, Deputy or Interim Secretary Boucher made an attempt today to acknowledge that this was less than ideal. And I do also very much appreciate the extra 2 weeks because it's a very short window compared to what we are used to.
I actually was talking with a teacher on my way in the parking lot who said she had, this was a high school teacher, that she had students sitting trying repeatedly for an hour to get in before they were actually able to access the system. So those types of scenarios for our kids, she said they took it very well. They were incredibly patient and resilient about it and good humored, which I was so glad to hear, but it's just not the way that you want to roll something like that out for kids and teachers.
And definitely a big kudos to Mary.
Yes.
I think her calmness from a month ago to now has really helped and supported the school-based coordinators. Mary has done a phenomenal job taking on a lot of researching and kind of summarizing and making it that much easier for school-based folks that are leading this work in their buildings. And when we attend meetings weekly, it's very evident that our supervisory union is far ahead when a lot of the questions are coming out. I feel like Mary's a week ahead of that. So I think
Mary actually ended up editing some of the manuals for the agency.
And they
As
got
she was
changed
reading
today.
the manuals to prepare our people, was noticing errors that they had made and was contacting back to the agency saying, hey, in your administrator manual on this page, you've got this whole section that's incorrect. And then they would have to correct that manual.
she's been very attentive to that. So I think that's been very helpful, and her presence today at this high school was excellent, and the students did navigate the situations very well.
Kudos also to Robin, who's been a big part of receiving the training and helping Mary with training people in the field. And Robin's participation was through the lens of, really looking at the special ed components and the accommodations and being
Dominic for the tech support too.
Absolutely.
And they all might be asking for.
Takes a village to do an assessment.
Yes.
Team effort for sure. Thanks, Jody, and all appreciate it. Michelle Tavares.
So I too am gonna add a little stressful piece in the special ed world, and that will be in the paper, and it's around, we are out of compliance. I'm out of compliance in the special ed world related to transition plans, and it's a result of, like, the federal government hasn't really been monitoring at the state level, and so now the state is monitoring us, and there hasn't been a level of professional development to make sure that we were on the right path. And just as with the agency related to assessment, a lot of turnover, there's been a lot of turnover in the special ed department, and so I attend trainings, I submit material based on the trainings, and they say that's not right. And so I've had to spend this month in particular a lot on, I had to do a root cause analysis and a landscape protocol with, like, no guidance on what that should look like, so lots of research to figure out the plan myself. And then spent a lot of time going over, I had to correct multiple transition plans that we have submitted, and then I had to go through I have to submit 10 new transition plans, and a transition plan is for any student on an IEP that is age 16 or older, of, like, what is their path gonna be when they leave high school. So they have to have post-secondary goals, and they have to be SMART goals that are measurable, and specific criteria, and, like, getting dinged if you sent a meeting notice and you didn't put the date that the meeting notice was sent in this transition plan in this box. Like, it's that specific, so going through and double checking transition plans.
You missed one important part, and that is just that you are not alone. You're in
Right, I
very
was gonna
good
say
company.
that.
It's across.
I'm feeling pretty good. I was at 60%, and there's a lot of other people that were like 0 or so I was feeling pretty good. And this is the only part in the special ed and all of the elements that I'm out of compliance with compared to other
It's been a
entities, so.
statewide issue since as long as I've been in special
Yeah.
ed.
I'm hearing that once you're in non-compliance, like, you can't ever get out of it, but I am determined. I'm getting out of it.
Working hard, Michelle.
Well, thank you. I know it's enormously complex, and we know what you juggle, so,
Yeah.
and if anyone can do it, it's you, so thank you.
Also, as I have my students from our alternative program that come to visit me frequently now at the office, that they're close by, so.
Thank you so much. Michelle Irish.
Yeah, I just have a couple of things I want to bring your attention to around some upcoming events and some past events. I give you some update. So on May 10th, it says in here 6:30 to 8:30. We're actually going to open the doors at 6. We are bringing a film called The Listen Up Project, which was a film Mary, Lynn, and I saw last fall at the annual conference. And it is a film that was, it's a musical that was written, scored, and performed by Vermont youth based on over 800 surveys done by Vermont youth pre-pandemic, just exploring the experiences that kids have in schools these days. And so there's all kinds of themes that they talk about. I think it's kind of soup to nuts. It was an incredibly powerful film. So I have 2 people from the production crew who are actually coming to show the film and then have a short discussion afterwards, open Q&A kind of discussion. And we're gonna have the foods program to provide some movie theater style snacks. It's all open to the public, and it's gonna be at the Opera House. And then we just had a couple of events. John Halligan came to talk about cyberbullying, and he lost his son to suicide because of cyberbullying a number of years ago. And so he did some presentations with some of the middle school students in our district, as well as a couple parent events. I don't have the numbers on the parent attendee. Do you remember the Berkshire, roughly how many people attended in Berkshire?
I was looking over there, because I think I saw you there too.
Yeah.
30?
Was it? Okay.
More
It was at least 50 to
more than
60.
50?
Okay.
It was pretty good.
I'm not good at guessing.
He does a lot of work with parents around sort of monitoring and managing cell phone use, internet use, and the effects that those things can have when they kind of go south for kids. And so we had one in Bakersfield. It wasn't as well attended, but they had an event like the night before also, so getting people to come out a couple nights in a row was challenging. And an event that had been rescheduled, I guess. And then we also had some folk artists come. They did some presentations in school, and then they came to the Opera House and the Richford Town Hall, did a program called Race and Song. And we had 75 people at the Opera House and 25, I think, at Richford at the Town Hall, so over 100 people came to those events, plus all the students that saw them during the school day. They were at Enosburg Elementary, Enosburg High School, Richford Elementary, Richford High School. And they did a couple of different programs at the elementary schools on the Underground Railroad and kind of song involved in that, and then some social justice and song for the high schools. So it was a really great performance and really well attended. So I think I was very happy to see the turnout for that.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. Heather.
Yeah. So just kind of highlight something from my board note, just that we are having a summer program at Bakersfield School this summer, and it's looking like it's going to be fully staffed. So pretty excited about that. LEAPS is also doing, well, through the Vermont Youth Project actually, we are also in May having a couple of workshops. We're going to be presenting VYP data to the communities of Enosburg and Richford, and doing a facilitated community building conversation. So Richford's will be May 17th from 5 to 7, and Enosburg's will be May 31st from 5 to 7. And then we'll have a follow-up meeting on that, has anything progressed from our original meeting, and that'll be on June 14th, facilitated by Vermont After School.
Can you say the locations, Heather, for those?
I don't have them just yet.
Okay.
So we want to offer childcare and food at these, and we're just having a little bit of a hard time finding a location. that might not be the school, like a community-based location, that would provide enough room to have the conversations and some childcare at the same time. So I've been working with people in both communities to see if we can find something. It might end up being the elementary schools though. So I'll have more information and flyers on that. I'm pretty excited about it. There's going to be one of the facilitators going to be talking about like neuroscience and like what middle high school student age individuals need for positive development within their community. But it's really, what does the community want? And so we're going to try to make sure that we have like the human service providers at those meetings as well, because it's, not only are we trying to support the youth, but we're also trying to support the whole community as well, and expand services within the communities, and more partnerships that schools can provide. Also, summer planning is underway really nicely. We're hoping to have brochures out this Friday or early next week for all of our sites. And a strategy we're implementing this year is partnering with our instructional coaches to look at our summer enrichment activities to make sure that we are really incorporating like the core subjects within our fun exploratory activities that we do, looking at that as like a universal level of supporting all of our students to maintain learning over the summer and showing like the connections between learning and fun, and as we're out in the community. And we're going to continue planning some really fun field trips.
And Heather, I have one question about the youth centers.
Yes.
This is great. I love seeing this kind of activity percolating around, and it seems like the youth taking a lot of ownership in trying to create these spaces to come together. Would they potentially be open to children and students outside of Enosburg and Richford from,
Yes.
say, the NMV schools? Because I know for a while in Montgomery, years and years ago, they had a youth center that was in the rec center building there, but it didn't really sustain, and there wasn't a really strong like center of gravity for the sustenance of it. But it's not that there isn't a need I know for sure in Montgomery for some of the older kids who start to kind of age out of other opportunities, but they too not ready for jobs yet. It's that kind of in between time.
Right. Yeah. My vision for these is definitely that it's just open to any youth who enters the building. My goal is to have one in Enosburg and Richford, and an entity within Enosburg and Richford takes over it. And I'm going to give my recommendation that they develop a youth board within the youth centers so that it maintains like the integrity of this is what the youth want, and the youth have the opportunity for the leadership. I've also been noticing or learning of some really amazing business models within youth centers. For example, there was one in Brattleboro that had a coffee shop and a clothing boutique in there geared toward younger individuals, and it was run by youth as well, so they got workforce development opportunities, and they got some of the other needs met. When I was interviewing youth in Richford, one of the things they said is like, we can't shop for clothes. Like you can't just go downtown and buy clothes. So like that boutique might be a really good option within the Richford community. So I'm meeting with the Richford Select Board to talk to them more about what this could be, and then who could be the partners to bring in for those conversations. And like I said, my notes, the Enosburg Village trustees are willing to take that on in Enosburg. So it's going to be a slow process probably, but yeah, open to all students. Anybody, they'll probably set an age of like 12 to like 25 maybe or something within that, and then it'll be open to everybody.
Great, thank you, wonderful. Jamie.
So I don't have too much of an update because I didn't get my notes to anybody until yesterday. So we're still working on filling a few positions this year for this current school year. We hired one additional professional. and 5 support staff. We also lost 2 teachers, 6 support staff, so that's been changing. Yeah, we're in the thick of the hiring we've been hiring a lot.
Yeah.
For next year, so we're ahead of the game there. We've had an addition of 17 FMLA requests since the last meeting, so we saw a little bit of an uptick there. And then in the educator licensing, so we have 20 less educators that needed to relicense this year, so that's good. We have 52 teachers going through the relicensing process right now. So they have till June 30th. And then one thing I don't think I've talked about it at all since this school year, but we've switched over to Frontline, and it's a new absence management and time and attendance system. All employees are on it now. It's the second payroll that we've had with every support staff clocking in electronically. So it's great. We've it's saved like 3 days of payroll. Our bookkeepers were working all weekend. So, and it saved on getting like
Per pay period, you're saying?
per pay period. And it saves us from getting about 500 sheets of paper.
Nice.
And so it seems to be going good. Everyone seems to like it. They clock in either on a kiosk system or they're an app on their phone that they can only access on the school IP address. So they can't clock in from home when they're in the building.
Wow.
So that's going really good. We built that up and it's great.
Nice. Thanks, Jamie. That's great. Dawn?
So I don't have a lot to say. I am starting to hire for next year. I have currently hired 1. I've got 4 other positions that are open. I've got some candidates. I'm going to start doing interviewing next week or the week after and get those, try to start filling some of them. But we are still running short on employees, so that's something that we really are looking at and looking outside of the box of how we can run these programs with less employees, or what I have to start doing with that, whether it's, you know, shoveling food in from another school, or, you know, just what we have to do, what we can do to make that process run smoother. As Vern said, we are looking into possibly doing some refrigeration work at this school. There is a state match grant out there that's 50%, so Vern's getting me some bids so that I can fill out that paperwork to try to get that grant. It's not definite that we will get it. We're just gonna try. And we also may possibly try for that same grant in Berkshire School, because that's another school that the refrigeration has caused us a few issues. One of those things that it only pays to Band-Aid fix stuff for so long before you start looking at it and replacing it. So when you're having to Band-Aid it every month, you have to start looking at it and saying, let's start spending some money and replacing that so that we can get rid of that. Unfortunately, a large part of that cost when they come and do a fix to it is just to get them there. And so if we can cut that cost out, that's a huge plus. So other than that, not a lot. I think we are going to be under state review under our last 2 programs this coming school year. That'll be our summer program and our school lunch and breakfast program. We did just complete a state review under our CACFP program, and we came out of that good. So I've done all the corrective action, so now we are in compliance with the state for that as well.
In the corrective actions, I just want to say, I think you did better than good. You did very well in that state review, and they were minimal, pretty easy to correct.
So fingers crossed the next 2 go that well.
And I'd also like to just mention that Dawn and her team have provided lunch for everyone at our SU in-service days, which is everyone who wanted it, which is a huge undertaking, and the feedback has been so incredibly positive. People are so grateful about that and feel like the lunch was really very good, so thank you, Dawn, for all of that effort.
do it really affordably too.
Yes,
You know,
extremely
teachers have been very happy
affordably, but
about
yeah,
that.
people, our staff, when they're at that day doing that professional learning, have been really appreciative about that opportunity.
Nice. That's great. Thank you so much. Melissa?
All right. So one of the things I highlighted in my board notes is the concept of learning through play. And my teachers are just so fantastic with embedding learning into play. And I provided some examples. So one teacher had created like a hot cocoa shack where kids had to practice putting on their outdoor gear, which works on fine motor development, self-help skills, and the kids don't even realize that that's what they're doing. So it helps school teachers, it helps families, it's a huge deal. Another example was a veterinary clinic, so they're working on inquiry skills and mapping. So one community was actually mapping out the roads, and the kids were able to place pictures of houses where they live on their roads, which was a really nice way to connect to their community. And within that, they are getting those early literacy and early math skills right in there. So just something to highlight. Preschool registration is open in all of our SU schools, or all schools throughout our SU. We posted at about the same time, so families had more consistency across the schools. And then actually this Saturday from 10 to 12 at the high school in the gym, we are having a family event as we did last year, and families, it's really geared toward like birth to 5, celebrating the young child, and we're focused on healthy development. The tooth tutor will be there, and CSS will be there, and we will have Rockin' Ron the Pirate joining us.
Great. Thank you so much. Robin?
So, in my notes, I shared that there was a training that was offered for developing emergency operations plan. It was a free training. It was super exciting. We had 10 staff members from across our supervisory union that attended. It was 4 hours, and I feel that everyone left with, I think the nice thing is our schools are in various places with their emergency operations plans. So they were really able to sort of reflect on where to go next with it, whether it's developing the team within the school or whether it's taking their current plan and revising. Some sort of had some ideas of what community partners they needed to add to strengthen their plan. But I felt like after the 4 hours when folks left, they were able to think about what a next step would be specific to their building level. So I shared in my notes that really our goal for next year is to have a school level safety team in each of the buildings. And I'm not as well versed as Lynn probably is in the bill that's coming out, but they did mention this at our training, so I feel like we're in a good spot for most of the schools having a document to work off of, and it's just a matter of revising and connecting with community partners and figuring out how to incorporate and sort of strengthen those plans. So that's kind of, I think, some work for the upcoming year. And then from my perspective, I'm hopeful to develop a like SU safety team so that we can do a little bit of different work from an organizational lens. So I feel like I left that with some ideas around that, but I felt good about the work that our individual schools have done with staff and students this year around the drills and things like that. So that was exciting.
Great. Thank you so much. Gab?
Just a couple of additions. I wanted to highlight that in my board report, there's one of my goals this year was to add some more in-person events. So we've been doing that. We did the State House, the water park, bowling. There might be a couple others. The kids are going to Echo on Friday. Casey Larson's been just amazing. She's got that sort of after-school awesomeness about her. She's great at putting together those events and kind of organizing them. So thanks to Casey. And the kids are really excited to go to Echo. So just to highlight, we've been doing that, and kids have been, the bowling was like, some of the kids hadn't ever been bowling, and now they go like every week, and they're really excited about it, tell us about it, so, that's just nice. And also keeping up on the mastery transcript, we have only 2 seniors leaving us this year. One has been accepted to a bunch of colleges. I just thought I would share that because that's something that people have their eyes on about mastery transcript. We only have 2 leaving this year, so it's not very much to go on. Next year we have about 8, so we'll see what that looks like. But our senior it was accepted to UVM St. Mike's. UNE, is that University of North New England? Bates, Simmons, Cal State, University of Monterey Bay, and then waitlisted at Smith. We cannot get into Smith yet, and Cal Poly.
Great.
So we've had 2 kids
Just waitlisted.
struggling with Smith. What's that?
Being waitlisted at Smith and Cal Poly is something.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So just that I would share that.
Bravo, that's wonderful. Thanks, Gab, appreciate it. Vern, do you have anything else? I mean, I know you did your spotlight, so I didn't want you to feel neglected though here.
Michelle told me I was done.
All
He
good,
was
no
getting it from both sides.
expectation for more. So. Okay, so for board business, the support staff agreement ratification, we need a motion, to approve. And does one of you want to kind of share the highlights, or are we all we did that at the local levels,
Yes.
So I don't think there's anything new that that we all know about the ratification. Okay, so I'll make the motion then to accept the support staff contract? Master agreement? Okay. By roll, Kat?
Aye.
Mort?
Aye.
Sarah? Aaron? And Mary is an aye. Teacher and staff appreciation. I know on the NMV side, we're actively working on that.
You're fully aligned with the ER side. They just chose, we did chose to up the ante by $5 because we wanted to make sure that the teachers there were equally as appreciated as the teachers on the NMV side.
Okay, yeah.
So we're fully in line
Great.
with one another. So the question is, do you want to do the same thing for your FNESU staff that are not attached to schools?
Yeah, I think certainly. I wouldn't want anyone to be excluded. And I think we just had this issue of how to kind of divide people between the districts.
So I think we'll come up with those details from our office and just do the same thing that we did last year.
Yeah.
So if they're primarily in one district versus the other,
Perfect.
we'll connect it there.
Yeah.
And if they're not, if they're kind of in all schools, or if they're just, in all schools, it
Yeah.
would be through the FNESU budget.
Great.
Okay.
As long as we cover everyone, that's great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
everybody will be covered. Jamie and I, once I get survey results, Jamie and I go through and we work together pretty
Perfect.
closely to make sure we have everybody.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The essential work of Vermont school boards, Glenn?
So this will be very quick. I'm bringing information to you for each of your next 3 meetings, just as a reminder. This comes straight from the toolkit of the Vermont School Boards Association. So there is essential work of the school board. There is a 5-minute video. Mary, do you want me to show the video, or actually the video is not specific to the vision and engaging the community. So is it sufficient that people could watch it in the slideshow? Or in the, I'm sorry, it's getting late here. It's linked in your agenda,
Yeah.
so it's just a reminder of what the
Yeah.
essential work is of the school board. And in the, on the website for the Vermont School Boards Association, establishing a vision and engaging the community are 2 of the big priorities. when it comes to the SU level work. So you've been working on that mission and vision, and I know in your upcoming board retreat, one of the things that we're going to be talking about is that community engagement piece through the lens of that longer term strategic plan. And so I think that is one of your responsibilities as a board, and it is what you have on your agenda. So I don't know if there were any questions that you had about that work.
I don't have in the moment.
Okay. So that's all for now.
Okay, future agenda items. So do we have no meeting in May and June, or a meeting in May but none in June and July?
We typically don't do any more SU meetings until August.
Okay,
We just have this reorg in April
Yep.
and then nothing until August.
okay, unless there was a need for a
Yes.
special meeting.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, then we will see everyone together again in August.
At our new central.
Can I just make a, sorry.
Yeah, no
People
worries.
want
What's
to
up,
get out of
Pat?
here, but I just want to make a quick comment. I watched the video this morning that the SU posted on the PE program at Richford High School. And I am just like so excited and so impressed. And I never ever thought about PE as it relates to UDL, and seeing what Jay Farnham has done there to include everybody and get everybody active, addressing, self-care, mental health after the pandemic. It's like amazing. That I cannot say enough good things. And I shared it, and I was like trying not to comment too much because I was just so excited this morning. So I just wanted to say that, if you haven't seen the video, to my fellow board members to watch it, or to anyone to watch it, because it was awesome. That's it.
That's good.
Thank you, Kat, yeah.
That's great. I will make sure to watch it. You said you posted it on your Facebook page, Kat?
I shared it, but the SU, I think, is the one that had posted it.
No,
It was
actually
Richford
Richford High School. Kat.
Nice. Oh,
It was
great.
Richford High School.
That's wonderful. I look forward to seeing it.
We could repost them.
Sure.
Awesome, thank you. So if there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to adjourn. By roll, Kat,
Aye.
Mort,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Erin, and Mary is an aye. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you in August. Appreciate it.